The chief author of the Senate Stadium bill, Senator Julie Rosen, joins me to talk about Tuesday's hearing. Thank you for coming on Capitol Report.
Thank you, Julie. You bet. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you as well. And I want to begin with your statement at the beginning of the hearing saying that you believe some good information would be garnered. So it's over. What's your impression of what you heard?
Well, first off, I really want to thank leadership and the committee chairs for having this hearing. It was needed. We need to have a public opinion. We need to get everybody at the table. And you cannot move forward with such a big project like this without having everybody at the table. And I think that was first and foremost is getting the correct information out and then having the public the opportunity to discuss some of this stuff too. The piece of information that was new to me was the Vikings agreement to let the authority operate the stadium. That was all new revelation that must have happened in the last 24 hours. So that was good. That was good because that is definitely one of the sticking points of this whole stadium talk.
And there have been a few sticking points. I want to talk to you about Senator Bach's statement during the hearing that this bill is going to be a tough sell. It'll be tough to get 34 votes. Now, as the author of the bill, how do you navigate through these murky waters?
Well, you have to navigate with partners that are across the aisle, and a governor who thankfully understands this and really wants to get something done too. That's how you navigate. You could not do it alone as a lone Republican or a lone Democrat or a lone governor. You have to navigate together.
I want to ask you, I talked with Senator John Marty, and that segment will be on shortly, and off camera he was saying that in his opinion this is less of a partnering and more of, there just hasn't been a whole lot of negotiations. It's been more the team saying what they needed. What's your impression of that statement?
Well, unfortunately, Senator Marty is not involved in the daily conversations and the working group, the bipartisan working group from both bodies and across the aisle that has been working on this for a very long time. So it may appear that there is a lot of just the team dictating what they need, but it really, trust me, there is so many negotiations and so many different, you have Minneapolis now coming in, and they've got their sites and their bill and their proposal, and so we're bringing many people to the table, and it's not really the team that's dictating. We know what the team wants. We have to figure out what the state share is going to be and the local partner is going to be. And
as you just said, you know what the team wants. They want the site in Arden Hills. They remain steadfast in that support as the bill author. We also heard about several site opportunities in Minneapolis as well. So as the chief author, are you site neutral or do you have a preference as well?
Well, I like to say I'm site agnostic, absolutely, because I just need a bill that works for everybody, and that's what's going to happen. And I'm sure in the very end, nobody's going to be jumping up and down, and if they were, then that's cause for concern. It's going to be a bill and a funding mechanism that works, and that we can get our votes, the 34 votes that we need, and we move this along. So that's my goal.
The hearing on December 6th is supposed to delve mostly in the different financing options. So for the sake of argument, let's talk about some of those. Do you think you could perhaps get some votes, more senators on board, if perhaps more of the revenue from the team eventually went into the general fund as well, say from parking spots? That was one concern that was brought up in today's hearing. Right.
Well, it all comes, you've got site locations and various price tags on those site locations, and then you have the funding mechanisms and many different options there, many different problems with each one of these funding mechanisms. So, you know, it's trying to move both of them succinctly along and not really saying, okay, we're going to do this site that has this issue without really knowing how it's going to be funded. So it's, you know, it's a work in progress. That's about all I can say but we are making agreements. We've come actually a very long way. It maybe doesn't appear to be that way, but we all agree that releasing a referendum from Ramsey County is not going to work. And I think that was a very sensible agreement. So now we have to kind of start over and figure out, okay, if we're not going to let a sales tax increase go in Ramsey County, what's the other options? And actually some things came up today in the hearing. Senator Ortman, the chair, mentioned bonding, and we've talked about that in the past. I think that's something we need to talk further. But it's good to hear these various talking points or issues come up from somebody else besides this little small working group or just myself and the other author in the House.
Senator Rosen, I think it's very fair to say that you are working very hard on a very contentious issue. With some NFL stadiums going up with no public funding whatsoever, I want to ask you, why do you think it's important for the state to be a partner in this?
Well, because it is a people's stadium, and I think the governor coined that very, very well. And Fairmont, my hometown, was just at the there on last Saturday. They unfortunately lost, but it is a people's stadium and it's used, and there should be a commitment. Of course, the Twin Stadium, there was no state share in that, and sometimes we get compared to that, but that's not very fair. We as a state use that that Metrodome right now continuously. The Hmong Festival. I mean, you could go on and on. What other events are there? So the partner has to be, the state needs to commit to this, and we need to figure out something and put a viable bill on the table so the NFL and the Vikings can all say, well, I don't like it, but it's a pretty good deal for everybody, so let's go ahead with it.
What does your instinct tell you about this bill, about the creation and the presenting of a final package to the legislature?
My instincts tell me that I believe we're going to get it done because this issue is not going away, Julie. It is not going to go away, and I feel that if we don't deal with it now, we're going to get gobbled up into hearings that are dealing with bonding and all these other issues. You know, the budget that's coming out. We need to have this wrapped up fairly soon, and we need to start counting our votes in a very bipartisan way. We need to get the governor engaged. He has been, but that's going to ramp up also, I'm sure. And my instincts say we're going to have a bill that we can vote on.
Okay. On that note, thank you for joining us today. And of course, we'll track this legislation as it's created and presented. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. You bet.